guys! Welcome back to another video on my channel, Moody Still Groovy. My name is Mick, for anyone who doesn't know. And yeah, this channel is dedicated to ending the stigma surrounding mental illnesses, especially bipolar disorder, trauma, PTSD, yada yada. If you haven't seen my video on an introduction to bipolar disorder and breaking some of the stigmas surrounding that, I strongly recommend checking it out just so what I'm saying is making a little more sense. I will try to link that up here if I can. If not, it'll be at the end of the video because I can do that. Still learning. Alright, enough talking and rambling. Today's video is going to be a sensitive topic, as if any of these videos won't be a sensitive topic for me. But today's video is going to be about bipolar disorder and the relevance or prevalence of the co-occurrence of substance use disorders, also known as SUDs, and I will be referring to them as SUDs periodically throughout this video, so SUDs, substance use disorder. Now you know. And that's what this video is on. I'm going to be sharing some scholarly articles and statistics and giving some facts, as well as sharing personal experience. And in the background, for some support, I have my little friend here. This is Sir Franklin Benjamin III, but you can call him Benji. I got him for $6 at Walgreens. It was very exciting. He's very soft. So to start off, I'm sure that I have left this down in the description box, but for anyone who hasn't checked it out first, this video is going to be triggering for anyone who gets triggered by substance mentions. I will be mentioning substances by name and talking about them and my experience with them throughout this video, and if that content is triggering for you, please click away now. This video is not for you, and that's okay. Stay safe. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, I will be going into some of the facts now. So, there is a lifetime prevalence of SUDs in at least 40% of bipolar 1 patients. Again, for this video, I am going to be referring primarily to bipolar 1 and bipolar 2, as most of the studies done have been conducted on those control groups, with more thorough information being provided on bipolar 1 patients. Bipolar disorders, again in particular bipolar 1 and 2 disorders, have a very high likelihood of substance abuse disorders. The largest study conducted on the co-occurrence of SUDs and bipolar disorder was done by the National Epidemiologic Survey on Alcohol and Related Conditions, also known as NESARC. In the NESARC study, they found that 68% of bipolar 1 patients had a lifetime prevalence of alcohol use disorders, and 38% had a lifetime prevalence of any drug abuse disorder. Another large survey was done by the National Institutes of Mental Health Epidemiologic Catchment Area Program. In this study, 61% of patients diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder were found to have a history of any alcohol or substance abuse. In specific, 46% had a lifetime history of an alcohol use disorder, and 41% had a lifetime history of a drug abuse or reliance disorder. In bipolar 2 patients, 48% were found to have a history of any alcohol or drug abuse. In specific, 38% or 39% had a lifetime history on alcohol use disorder, and 21% had a lifetime history of any drug abuse. It is the second most commonly co-occurring mental illness with SUDs, the first one being antisocial personality disorder, with around 84% of those patients observed to have a history of alcohol or drug abuse. So It is pretty prevalent in bipolar disorder, clearly. And then there's a few studies onto the specifics of what substances are being abused. However, I'm just going to use the one that Cassidy has put out there because all of the results are fairly similar in the top 2 substances abused and the bottom 2 substances, just with some slightly different percentages because different sizings and different control groups and yada yada yada. So the order of it is 48.5% of patients with a bipolar disorder, bipolar 1 or 2, will have an alcohol abuse disorder. Around 36% will have a marijuana abuse disorder, and 24.2% a cocaine abuse disorder, and 4.6% will have an opiate abuse disorder. So again, around all of the results for that are fairly similar, just different percentages, but it goes alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, and then opiates. So yeah, those are some of the facts behind how relevant and impactful substance use disorders and bipolar disorder can be. They are very interlocked and interwoven. Around 1 in 4 adults with a mental illness also have a substance abuse disorder, and that is just a generalized mental illness in general, not just bipolar disorder. However, there is definite risks for being bipolar and using substances. It can worsen symptoms of mania or depression. And you might be wondering, well, why do people who are bipolar even use substances or alcohol? A lot of the times, people who are bipolar use substances and alcohol as a means of self-medication. Even though it is known to make symptoms of mania or depression worse, it can help alleviate some of the frustrating symptoms of bipolar disorder, such as sleeplessness or kind of that restless energy, anxiety, yada yada. So drugs and substances can offset some of the symptoms that I just mentioned, as well as depression, at least for a little bit. So substances and alcohol can alleviate some of the symptoms of bipolar disorder, even if it's only temporary. Another reason some people will use substances is to recreate the mania, which I will definitely be talking about in 2 seconds. But yeah, those are kind of some facts, as well as some of the reasons why bipolar folk use substances. Now I'm going to get into my personal story for a little bit here, if you can bear with it. So I am dually diagnosed. A dual diagnosis means you have a mental health diagnosis as well as a substance abuse diagnosis or a SUDS diagnosis. So I personally am dually diagnosed. Also, just a brief little side note, being dually diagnosed does not mean that you only have one mental illness and then SUDS. I have multiple mental illnesses and SUDS, and it's still called dually diagnosed. That's just the term. All right, moving on. So my story with substances begins around 13, 14. The first time I smoked marijuana. I really liked it. It helped me sleep. It helped me eat, which is pretty hard. And it helped me be a lot less anxious. And I definitely did get to a point where it was a problem in high school. It was all I was doing. I would show up to class red-eyed, not even caring because I was so depressed, and honestly, marijuana was the only thing that would get me going sometimes. Not to say that that was a great thing, and some people with bipolar disorder can't use any substance in their journey as they find out. I'll make a video on like my journey with substances, like a fuller length one later on, I'm sure, because there's a lot to talk about. In a flash, though, I am going to give a crash course of my experience with substance abuse and a little bit of where I'm at now. So, start with marijuana. I have had a very interesting life, for sure. However, around like 16, 17, I started to branch off more and more and, like be more independent and financially independent. I lived alone, worked 3 jobs. It was a crazy time. However, during this time, I was severely experiencing symptoms. I was off my medication, which happens. I've made a few slip-ups, honestly, where I've gone off my medication. I recently had one, and so I ended up back in the 24/7 care facility. I was living in a facility that wasn't as intensive, but I had a slip-up, so I came back. And it's because I went off my meds, which is really common when you're off your meds to abuse substances more. It's much more likely that you're going to abuse substances or alcohol when you are in a more manic or mixed state, I would say. I experience mixed states a lot. So around the time that I was living alone in the city and working those 3 jobs, I also really got into the rave culture, and it was fun. It was what I expected and not at all what I expected at the same time. However, this was when I was introduced to more substances. When I was 17, that was the first time that I snorted cocaine. I didn't get it the first time. I have found that a lot of substances do react oddly to me. I don't know if that's just because of how I am or if it's the chemical imbalance in my brain, but yeah, I didn't get it at first. Then I got into certain benzodiazepines, such as crushing up Klonopin, Ativan, Xanax, stuff like that. Snorting that. A lot of the friends I had were doing similar actions, so it didn't seem super alarming to me. I didn't do coke for a few months, and then I did again, and this time I went all in. I didn't care. I was in a very severe mixed state of mania and depression. It was going pretty fast because of my lack of medication and all the stress I was under constantly all the time. Not to say that that's an excuse, and I definitely made poor choices, and I acknowledge that. I experimented with anything and everything. Molly, MDMA, cocaine, like I said. Drinking more often. I don't really like alcohol, so that really never was my poison of choice, but I did it more often in this period of my life. And I also experimented with psychedelics like LSD, acid, DXM, which I definitely have a whole story about. It was an interesting time. And yeah, the works. Anything I could get my grubby little paws on, I would. And I did. I'm not proud of it. I'm glad I got certain experiences. However, I really wish I didn't have other ones. And some scary stuff happened during this time. Scary stuff happened to me. Scary stuff happened around me. I put myself in really stupid positions. And I worried a lot of people. And I really regret that. I also, as like a younger kiddo, was into just like pill popping in general, like over-the-counter medication, stealing medication, stuff like that. So it's been a journey for me, for sure, with my substance abuse disorders. And I also come from a family that has a high alcoholism and substance abuse disorder rate. So it almost felt like fate when I started doing some of these drugs. It almost felt like coming into the throne. That sounds horrible, I know, but that's how my brain thinks sometimes. So, yeah. Now I am clean. I've been clean for 2 weeks of anything. I've been clean of cocaine for months now. Same with Molly. And I'm learning every day. And I am definitely enjoying the experience of being sober. It is really nice, and I definitely have an addictive personality. I go in hard for anything, whether it be a substance or food, anything I can gain a sense of control over or feel a sense of control over, I tend to overdo. So I need to be careful and be cautious with that for the rest of my life. And it's definitely been a hard journey. It's not super fun detoxing, and it's definitely not fun carrying this with me. I feel really ashamed for some of the things that I've done and some of the actions I've taken. However, I'm working every day on accepting those parts of me, forgiving myself, and just loving the chance I'm getting now to kind of fix things. I know some people might, I don't know, look kind of funny at me for some of the things I've done, and that's okay. I understand that I was hurting, and I understand that I was sick, and I'm so proud of the steps I'm taking to move forward with my life, to not have these addictions follow me forever. I'm so grateful that I started it so young, that I didn't wait until my 30s or 40s. And even if you are waiting until your 30s or 40s, or you are in your 30s or 40s and are thinking of seeking help for any substance abuse, please do it. The human brain is amazing. We constantly are capable of growth and change. So, regardless of your age, you can change. You can make that step. I will definitely link some stuff down below. I understand how scary it is to put it down, to walk away, and just know that there's a lot of resources for you. You're wonderful, you're amazing, and you're not a bad person. You've been hurting and suffering, and you deserve help. And I hope that you get that. Alright, so this was a kind of heavier video towards the end, but I really hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully you learned something new. And yeah, like this video if you enjoyed it. Comment something if you want to. An idea for a new video, I'm always open to that suggestion. Any feedback would be awesome. And if you are feeling keen enough to subscribe, that would be super cool. And I hope that you guys are all doing well. I hope that quarantine is treating you as good as it can. I send out my love to all you guys and hope that this has been a lovely day and a lovely week. And I will see you next week. Bye, guys!